Alright, so I just finished this book called Holding On to Your Kids, or Holding On to Your Children, Why Parents Matter More Than Peers. Right? That was an interesting one because the kids at this age are getting out of this stage of like super neediness on us, and they're really attaching to our guys are 10 and 8, right? So they're really attaching to peers now. And I wanted to talk to you because you were a teacher.
Okay.
Right? We talked about it before.
Yeah.
About how this guy really feels that that parents really need to matter and hold on to their kids and kind of keep them out of peer relationships for a longer period of time. Right? So when do you notice in school peer relationships really strengthening? What grade?
Really strengthening or being influential?
Influence, because what his foundational principle is that kids are blank slates, right? And we can even think about it as the prefrontal cortex of the human brain is the thing that allows us to really have impulse control and have a good guide as to have a good foundation of who we are as ourselves, and then be able to direct ourselves in the world on our own. Right? So kids don't have that.
Correct.
Right. So he feels that kids should model themselves after humans that have that.
That have a developed
prefrontal cortex, as opposed to other kids.
Yeah.
Right. So the children, prior to that prefrontal cortex developing, should model themselves after a strong father or a strong mother or other community members that are adults, because they help to differentiate right from wrong and all of that, and help establish those values that are important for life.
Yeah.
While peers are a bunch of blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
Right? So what grade would you say that tends to start happening? Or age?
I would say probably like mid-3rd to 4th grade. So like right where I was at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when you start noticing kids really kind of, does there tend to be in school, does there tend to be like how many kids tend to be the cool kids, that the influencers?
I would say maybe like a handful. And
they're the influencers. And then as the teacher, when you see these influencers, do you like, what is this influencing? Why do they become the one that follows them around? Or why do they become kind of the leader, the one that the kids look up to? What are the traits out of that child that kind of draws that to them?
Jeez, you're really putting me on the spot here.
Do you notice anything?
Yeah, no, I do.
That's fascinating to me.
I would say a lot of it has to do, well, year to year, I think it's different. And like the group of kids in each grade tend to have a different dynamic.
Okay.
Like I can remember some years having like really sporty kids, and like the sporty kids tended to have a little bit more confidence. They tended to spend more time with each other outside of the classroom in those sports settings. So there was like a camaraderie and a shared sort of confidence.
Yeah.
But then I had other years where they weren't as sporty, and it was, I can remember one year in particular where, and these weren't necessarily the influencer kids, but they were more like computer focused and Minecraft, and
but they were tight.
So and they very much looked to each other for approval, and very much sort of sought out the opinions and feelings of their peers,
of the other kids. So he brings up in the book in a section of how kids, when they talk to each other, and they're always talking, and they talk about complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That nonsense is just them like piping out that they want to fit in, and that they are organizing and kind of tightening that connection with the other peers.
Yeah.
Do you notice anything about the families of the kids like that, the influencers? Do they push them to become older faster?
I think so. And I think especially in certain years where it's very sort of sports and athletics focused, those families also spend a lot of time with each other outside of school at the sporting events. Yeah. So they have a lot of shared experiences.
So then they come back into school, have those shared experiences. The other kids feel a little left out.
Yeah.
And then they want to try to fit into that group too, so they're playing a little catch up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say that's fair.
Cool. Okay,
Fair.
so that's interesting. So in the book he talks about how kind of like against the sporty, like that type of a mindset, and that you want to foster the home relationship, right? So if that kid wants to fit in with that sporty group but ultimately doesn't, they feel bad about themselves. But if they can fall back on a family, right, they should be better equipped to handle that.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Is that what you would think in your educational aspect of what is good, kind of like, I don't know, behavioral psychology of children?
Yeah, and I would say, like when you were talking earlier, I was thinking it's not necessarily, or at least I don't think, it's feasible to expect kids to delay peer relationships.
So you don't think it's feasible?
Right? They're
What do you mean
in
by that?
school. Well, you said like they should have home relationships as opposed to peer relationships and delay those more influential,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I just don't see in the socialized world that we live in
Yeah.
that that's possible.
So how do you
Right.
how do you manage it?
What I think is more important is kind of like what you were just describing, that you have a strong home base to help your children sort of navigate those challenging peer situations. Because to me, it doesn't make sense to have such a strong home relationship that the kids don't ever have an opportunity to learn hard social
I gotcha.
lessons, right?
So they have to fail socially.
They have to fail, and that's a huge, we talked, I think, in another video about growth mindset and how those experiences help your brain to grow and help your brain to develop the skills that they need to be successful. But what you need sort of in tandem with that is an adult, a parent, a mentor, somebody.
Prefrontal cortex person.
Yes.
That has experienced it before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, and not to say that they're going to take your advice, because more often than not, from our experience, they're not going to.
But as long as they have that foundation, that place where they know they can go back and collect their thoughts, then their brain and their body is in a safer, calmer environment, and then can process those.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So he also picked apart schools and teachers.
Yeah,
as to how they foster those peer relationships. What do you got to say about that?
Again, I don't think
like after school hangouts, or like, I know a big thing, because your sister's a teacher too. You guys feel that lunchtime is one of the most important times of...
It is.
So explain that to me.
It is one of the very few times during the day in a school setting where they have an opportunity to practice those really important social skills, right? And again, they're not going to get it right every time. They're going to fail. And I can't tell you the amount of times I went to pick my kids up from lunch and there was some catastrophe at lunch.
Yeah.
But if you have...
All of our crap happens during lunch.
Yeah. But if you have, again, that sort of like support system to help them realize what they should have done differently, or help them understand that problem.
So it's not completely removing those things, it's making sure that those are established and those take place, but always having that strong home base to fall back on. That is a parent setting, not an older sibling or not a adolescent person that is helping them, guide them through
it's an adult
things. It's an adult, and they're not sitting there telling them what to do,
sort of post-pandemic for schools.
Oh,
and
really?
One of the things that, we're doing that.
I know, but with the video. Oh yeah, what?
One of the things that students who are really struggling in school with their social relationships or just with school in general.
They're missing out on lunchtime.
No. They don't have an adult either in school or in their life that they feel connected to. They don't have that person to help them navigate. So we've been doing, I think there's a lot of potential work to help make sure that every student, every child has somebody in that school setting
to
help them.
That's awesome. All right, till next time.